This is the story of those products. So, let's take a trip. It's their trip. Your trip. Let's visit Hershey, Pennsylvania, better known as Chocolate Town, USA, the chocolate crossroads of the world. Within a few short hours from the United Nations, Hershey, Pennsylvania becomes a reality. You know you're near when you see the two huge smokestacks which stand high above the largest chocolate factory in the world. And very often, the aroma of the chocolate greets you when you're still some distance away. No one ever forgets their visit to Hershey. There's so much to see and do. There's fun, excitement, and many educational points of interest. Of course, the main point of interest in this unique community, which is located in the heart of the Pennsylvania Dutch country, is the plant where chocolate is made. Every year, thousands and thousands of people take a tour through this plant to see the history of chocolate, its origin, manufacture, packaging. Today, these children are here because they have a special and personal interest to see how the raw materials which come from their particular countries are used in the making of the Hershey products. Children from the countries where the cocoa bean is grown. Children from sugar-producing countries. Children from the countries which produce the supplies important to packaging. Children, countries, goods and services, industry, the vital ingredients necessary to a prosperous and peaceful future.
Since the factory is usually the first stop for visitors, we've put this map of the community here so that everyone can see where everything is located. We're pleased to have you children as our special guests and know you'll want to see and do as much as possible.
The amusement park is always a big favorite. The Hershey Gardens, known for its great variety and beauty of plants and flowers, is also a most popular attraction. A great deal of early American history is found in the Hershey Museum. Maybe we'll see a thrilling event in the big stadium.
Go to the Homestead, birthplace of Milton S. Hershey, founder of this industry in town. Soon you'll actually be visiting all these places. But like all good things, let's go back to the beginning, even before the establishment of Hershey and the chocolate industry here. Let's go back to when chocolate making really began to develop what is certainly the most famous and popular flavor in the world. The story of chocolate, its discovery and use over the years, is illustrated in part on these panels. Before Christopher Columbus discovered the New World in 1492, the Aztec Indians of Mexico and the Mayas of Central America cultivated and used cacao, or cacao, as a food. Some years later, when Cortez invaded Mexico, he learned that the Aztecs placed great value on the cacao beans, both as a food and as a medium of exchange. The Mexican Emperor Montezuma introduced Cortez to a drink made from the beans, which they called chocolate. Of course, from this we get the name chocolate, and we get cocoa from cacao. It was said that the emperor was so fond of the drink that he took no other beverage, drinking up to 50 goblets a day. Could you drink that much?
Yes.
After Cortez introduced cocoa into Spain, it soon became very popular. Although Spain tried to control the world's source of cocoa, it became known to other explorers, and soon Italy, France, and Austria were enjoying its pleasing flavor.
The custom of drinking chocolate then spread to England and Germany, where chocolate houses became very popular. But only the wealthy could enjoy drinking this delicacy because the price was so high. But as time went on, manufacturing methods were developed which brought the product within the reach of everyone. In 1903, Milton S. Hershey returned here to the spot where he was born to establish what has now become the largest chocolate plant in the world.
As we've learned, this vast industry started many centuries ago with the discovery of the cocoa beans. Times haven't changed. For whatever the end product may be, we still must start with the cocoa bean. Almost every day, a great deal of the world's supply of cocoa beans finds its way to the community of Hershey, while other shipments are routed to the Hershey factory in Canada. This modern plant is fully equipped for the manufacture of all chocolate and cocoa products. Still more beans shipped to the newest member of the Hershey manufacturing family in California. Yes, an unending, uninterrupted flow of raw materials bind Hershey and its far-off suppliers together in an unbreakable bond of partnership. So important is this constant flow as to rank the sale of cocoa beans in many of these nations as one of their most important industries. Ghana, Nigeria, Brazil, Cameroon, Venezuela, Mexico, Trinidad, Costa Rica, Ecuador, the majority of the countries which supply the beans are located near the equator. The climate is more suited to the cacao, or you may prefer to call it the cocoa tree. The care in the growing of these trees is carefully planned in order to get the most beans and the finest quality. The trees are not very tall. The leaves are always green, and these large melon-like pods grow on the trunk and branches. If within arm's reach, the ripe orangey yellow pods are cut down with a machete. When beyond normal reach, they're cut down carefully with a long-handled knife called a podadera, so as not to break the tender branches. The average tree yields from 20 to 30 pods per year. The native workers know when to harvest these pods, and when ripe, they're cut down, then transported to a central area to be opened. Most often, the process of opening the pods becomes a family affair, for you will find the men and young boys, and sometimes the women, cutting them open with sharp, rounded knives. The younger children play nearby or sit in fascination as they watch to learn a job which they will be performing in a few short years. A good breaker will open up to 500 pods an hour. When opened, the pod reveals from 20 to 40 white beans surrounded by a glistening, moist pulp. The light-colored beans are then removed, the pod thrown away. This is an important step, for it takes about 400 dry beans to make 1 pound, and there's hardly 2 ounces in an average pod.
When the beans are removed from the pods, the sugary pulp surrounding the bean begins to ferment. In the process, heat is generated, and the overall effect of this mild, natural treatment is the development of a desirable brown color and a fine, full flavor.
After a 6-day or longer fermentation period, the beans are spread out in the sun to dry. Once thoroughly dried, the beans are packed in large burlap bags and ready for shipment. This is the first step in the careful process of making the world's most popular flavor. Well, we now have a good picture of the growing, harvesting, and preparation of the cocoa beans. Also, a better appreciation of some of your native countries. Before we see the actual making of chocolate and cocoa, let's find out how all of this became a reality. Milton S. Hershey founded this town and this vast chocolate industry in 1903. His was a typical American competitive enterprise story, for he lived through 3 separate business failures before coming back here to central Pennsylvania, where he was born. Then succeed he did, and under his guidance, one of the most perfectly planned towns in America grew into a reality. His compassion and love for people resulted in the creation of a community worthy of his name. Through his tireless efforts to create an economical, nutritious food, the Hershey chocolate flavor was born. In his lifetime, Milton S. Hershey traveled the world. Now the world travels to the community he founded. And when we're young, we all hope and wish and dream that we could be the pilot of a big airplane or the engineer of a huge railroad train or a great athlete or a glamorous movie star or have a big chocolate factory of our own. And many times dreams like these come true. One of them did for Mr. Hershey. But to make good chocolate is not easy. Now this is called a flow chart. Much of what is here is seen when visitors take a conducted tour through the plant. Step by step, it shows what happens to the cocoa bean from the time it arrives through to the finished product. By boat from your countries, then railroad cars to our factory. The bags are unloaded, opened, and the beans are poured out into these large bins. Then, through a series of conveyor belts, they are transported to the top of the silos, where they are stored until needed for production.
These silos hold about 90 million pounds of beans. That's approximately 1,300 railroad freight cars, and the silos are being constantly filled, then emptied as production demands.
Immediately upon entering the plant, the beans pass through a remarkable cleaning process. Through the use of screens, magnets, and individually controlled air streams, all dust and loose shell fragments are separated. Chocolate making is, in essence, a custom craft, even though it is a mass-manufactured product. The size, color, quality, and the names of beans vary from country to country.
Next, the roasting process takes place in large revolving cylinders. The amount of time taken depends upon the variety of the bean being roasted. After roasting, then cooling, the shell is cracked away from the rest, leaving the inside or the meat of the bean. This is called the nib.
The nibs are then fed into a milling machine where they're squeezed and ground between large, heavy steel discs. It goes in at the top as little pieces of cocoa bean and comes out in a liquid form, which is the basic ingredient of all forms of chocolate.
Now, so far, we've seen the cocoa bean after it was cleaned, then after the shell was removed, leaving the meat or nib, and then the grinding process, transforming the nib into a chocolate liquid.
I'm sure you're all familiar with the chocolate bar, and chocolate kisses, and with the cocoa that you mix for drinking or baking. Well, chocolate and cocoa are made differently, although up to this point in the manufacturing, they are the same. Let's take a moment to find out how the cocoa products are made. The chocolate liquid, destined to become your morning cup of cocoa, is pumped into a giant hydraulic press. Tremendous pressure is applied. As a result, a yellow liquid known as cocoa butter is removed in part. Pressed cocoa cake is left. This is cooled and pulverized into a fine powder to achieve the pleasing brown color and fineness of cocoa.
Cocoa is then packaged for many uses, as a powder for drinking or baking. Much of it is turned into syrups for drinks or used as delicious topping. Sugar is an important ingredient in the making of many products. A number of our guests come from countries which produce this commodity. As does the cocoa bean, the growing use of sugar again helps to bring producing and consuming nations closer together.
The manufacture of milk chocolate requires ready access to large quantities of rich, fresh milk.
In fact, this valley was chosen by Mr. Hershey as the site for his first factory because its rich farmlands offered a quick and steady supply of the finest quality milk. Just think, it takes more than 50,000 cows to produce enough for one day's need. Milk chocolate, America's favorite chocolate product, is made by blending together milk, sugar, and the basic chocolate liquid. Large mixing machines now take over, and the mass slowly changes in texture. At this point, the chocolate in heavy paste form is sent through a steel roll refiner. This is done to achieve the velvety smoothness found in the finished product.
Now, the final smoothing and flavor development in the making of milk chocolate takes place in huge machines equipped with heavy rollers. This is called conching. Back and forth, moving the paste continuously for several days, blending the ingredients together to reach the desired flavor.
But before this finished product can be sent on to be molded into the sizes, shapes, and types of chocolate so familiar to all of us, our team of chemists and home economists must give their approval. Theirs is the specialized job of research, analysis, examining, developing, and creating new techniques. Quality tests on each and every product are constantly performed. Here in this laboratory, as with the workers throughout the plant, nothing is left to chance. Only the best is wanted, and the best is achieved. Certainly the tastiest job, and one which any youngster would really enjoy, is that of the home economists. Their pleasant duty is to find new food ideas incorporating chocolate products. Take your pick: pies, cakes, cookies, desserts, flavorings, all manner of recipes tested and tried in these spotless kitchens.
For convenience, chocolate is molded into many forms. This is accomplished by special machinery to ensure the correct appearance, proper body, and fine texture. The formed chocolate is then cooled at a fixed rate to keep intact the hard-earned flavor. Then finally wrapped and packaged in recognizable containers for shipment. One of the most fascinating sights to be seen here is the kiss-making operation. Bite-sized miniatures are an example of the vast variety of shapes and sizes into which chocolate is made. Certainly the most colorful of all is the Hershey-et. It's amazing how the individual letters are placed on each piece. The topping of the trip for all visitors are the samples given. It's twice as much fun to eat the chocolate offered, because the visitor can now appreciate even more the effort that went into the making of it.
We're so happy that you could visit us today. Thank you. Please come back and see us real soon. Goodbye.
Adeus e muitas graças.
Goodbye.
Adeus e muito obrigado.
Goodbye.
Nyanko ponchame do artepa.
Goodbye.
Adeus e muitas graças.
Goodbye.
Goodbye and thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Abundang
Goodbye.
Adeus e muitas graças.
Goodbye.
Adeus e muitas gracias.
Goodbye.
We've just experienced the teamwork of the many nations around the world which produced the original raw materials used in making chocolate to, in effect, create this great industry and model American community. And yet the story of chocolate does not end here in Hershey, Pennsylvania. For as Milton S. Hershey believed, time works wonders. And new uses in the future will undoubtedly be found at Chocolate Town, USA for this internationally created and internationally consumed food. Whatever the reason, the explanation for chocolate continuing to be the world's most popular flavor, taste is answer enough. For these children, though, has been added a new element, and that is the dimension of understanding, one upon the other for common survival, of what people of different backgrounds, regardless of age, race, religion, color, or creed, can give to get for the common good of all.